Hey, everyone. I just finished a live stream on the frontside floater, and I went through everything it takes to do that, to do a good frontside floater. It's such a tricky turn, and so rewarding. There's so many different types: super long floaters, whitewater floaters, floaters when the bottom drops out. Thanks, babe. And going through the technical sides of the floater is one thing, but then practicing it so that you're aware of what your body needs to do. These are things I didn't even really know how to do when I was a pro. Like, I didn't know how to explain. I just knew how to do them, and have gotten better at it over the years. And it's important to get better at it, because floaters, you can get hurt doing floaters really easily. So one of the key things coming off the floater, when you come off of it, is staying really close to the surfboard. So if you get too far away and there's too much impact, you need to abort, or you can get hurt. So it's amazing that I talked about a little bit about the Olympics and watching Italo and flying into the air and how he lands and doesn't get hurt, mainly because he lands with the back foot first and then the front foot. And the ones that he didn't make were, he landed on the front foot. So a floater is kind of like a little bit of a sort of like a it's like an air, a not so spectacular air, but it sure feels good. And it's, you can do them at the end of the wave, but a lot of times you're using floaters to be able to make a section. Anyway, for any of the members out there, I'm leaving the live stream up for roughly another hour until 11 a.m. here in Australia. And if you have any questions about WaveKey, or if you're a member, you can email me, you can DM me. But the true to really excel, to really get better, you got to practice, and it's really difficult to practice when you don't have waves, or you can't get to the beach, or even get a section to do a floater on. If you're trying to look for it, it sort of like avoids you. The float. You want to do the floater when it comes to you, when it's natural to do the floater. So knowing what your body needs to do to be able to even get up onto the wave is a technique. Then there's the technique of when you're up on top of the wave. Then there's the technique of coming off the wave. And when you come off the wave, you want to come off the wave with 100% control, so that you can go right into the next turn without bogging rail, or without losing speed. That's a big one. A lot of times floaters are used to gain more speed. For anyone who's really interested in having a final turn that's like a really big final turn, whether it's an air or just a big hack or whatever it is. A lot of times, if you do a floater prior to that big turn, is when you go into another level of speed. So thanks for all the nice waves out there, the waving. I hope everybody's keeping well in these super strange times. But I just want to let everybody know that the live stream is still up until 11. And so if you happen to miss it, I had to do this one. I know some of the people in Europe, it's quite late, but I have to do these a little later in the morning because I had to get my kids off to school. It's pretty loud in here in the morning. And so, if anybody has some questions, they don't have to be related to WaveKey. They can be whatever. You can ask me, and I just really love to teach, and I love to pass along what I've learned to help others surf better, enjoy their surfing more, get away from thinking about surfing as practice. This is something that I ended up, as a pro, I would go surfing to practice, and a lot of the surfs were terrible, and I would get annoyed and mad, and kind of defeat the purpose of surfing in the first place, which is to enjoy it. And so that's why I developed Wave Key, so that I could practice in a controlled environment. I could work out some of my bad habits, which I have a lot of them, and I can improve. Even if I can improve a little bit, it gives me this excitement to go surfing. And I was saying in the that with the pandemic, a lot of us end up surfing the same spots over and over again. So having a new excitement to surf is a pretty valuable a feeling. And I want to say too, I learned so much from so many different surfers. Tom Curran being probably one of the biggest ones that I learned from. I was lucky enough to watch him surf in the morning before the events. He's a little older than me, so I watched him surf when I was in the amateur division. And I also was lucky enough to start surfing on the tour in 1984 with surfing's first professional surfers, Rabbit Bartholomew and Sean Thompson and MR and Shane and Richard Cram and Larry. I got to see Larry Bertelman surf, but he was a little past his prime there. Dane Kealoha was on tour when I got on there. It was incredible to watch the very best. Aki was so fun to watch. Gary Green, Wayne Jaggard, Matt Archibald, Ross Clark Jones, Damien Hardman, Barton Lynch. There are just so many great surfers. Gary Elkerton. The influences and the styles were all so different, and there were so many things that I borrowed or stole from Aki. For instance, I loved his backside. I loved how he would tilt his head towards the surfboard. Tom Curran, prior to seeing Aki, I watched Tommy, and he would tuck his chin under to get real vertical. So I stole from that. I tried to learn how to carve like Tom Curran, and there's just I can't give enough praise. I'm watching Michael Ho at Sunset find a tube. Derek Ho, his backside tube riding at V-Land. I feel so lucky. Dino Archibald. So many good surfers, and then the younger surfers. Kelly Slater, of course. So fun to watch, so fast, so precise. Rob Machado, incredibly precise and stylish. Ross Williams, the guy, just throw tons of spray. Jeff Booth. I mean, that's just like, there are so many surfers out there that they're influential, and I'm just running them over and going through my memory, and Rod Kerr, Robbie Page, Tom Carroll. Oh man, Tom Carroll was just, it was incredible to watch him, and the power, especially in big waves, like seeing him in big, powerful waves, was having so much control. And then seeing some different types of surfers. Christian Fletcher, he gave me a great tip on doing airs that I'll never forget and always credit him on. Ozzie Wright, obviously one of my favorites maybe it's not obvious, but should be, is Dane Reynolds. Just incredible, artistic, powerful approach. These are all surfers that I watch really closely, and I look over old footage, learn things from old footage. I have memories that have been burned into my mind because they did them right in front of me. Martin Potter, watched him do some incredible surfing in front of me live when I first saw him. Had a few encounters with them, but what a lot of people don't know is that we had those encounters. They flared up, but then we almost like lived together because we were going to the contest, week after week. So within a week, we already made up. We're like, all right, man, there's still that, if I see you, I'm gonna spray you and kind of thing. But it was we always talk about it when we see it. I was like, well, that part made it really fun because it made it gave us like extra motivation to be even better than we were. And so I really thank Potts for that and appreciate him a lot. And Marty Thomas, Jeff Novak, Dave Kennedy, I got to travel with some great guys, and really lucky. Glenn Casey, man, I'm just, Machado. I already said Machado. Yeah, I did. My wife's reminding me, Machado. Yeah, Machado's number 2. We both finished number 2, and we always say number 2. It's pretty funny. Taylor Knox, man, wow. What an incredible surfer. What a funny guy, and good friend. Mike Parsons, huge influence on my life, and didn't like him at all when I was a kid, but man, we became best friends. It's incredible to be friends with a guy that you didn't like. You just can't believe that. You can't believe that how likable a person you didn't like was. And all of these surfers influencing me so much, and probably in my early days, one of the surfers that influenced me the most would be John Glom. John, super fast, really stylish surfer. Like very we all paying attention a lot to Larry Bertleman and the way Bertleman would do his cutbacks, and that was the thing. You wanted to lay out and do the biggest, roundest, most beautiful cutback you could do. And the influences they run deep, and the Campbell brothers, I'm really close with Duncan, and watching all the films from the 70s and their influence on surfing, just wonderful stuff. And all of this all of the influences I put into Wavekey, because I feel like that surfing needs, for you to be the best surfer you can be, you need to be aware of your body, aware of how your body is over your feet. And if the only time you're kind of aware of it is surfing, how fleeting surfing is. It can just you're on a wave for 5 seconds. In Wavekey, you slow way down and go deep into, hey, how do I move to my back foot to get into the position where I can do the biggest turn that makes sense for this part of the wave? I did see someone say, Wes and Willie. Yeah, I traveled with Wes Lane and Willie for a while, and every surfer that I've met through my travels has influenced me in some way. And I have a friend in France, Jean Sartou. He was very influential and helpful and such a brother. He passed away, which makes me sad. My friends in Tahiti, and all the time that I spent in Tahiti and Indonesia, and lots of friends in Indonesia, lots of incredible surfers in Indonesia, Rizal and Batet and Pippin, and I mean, it was great to see TP Jabrik. He's the coach of the Indonesian team, and Rio Wada over in it was great to see Indonesia make the Olympics. Japan, all my friends in Japan, so many friends over there, and you know, it's kind of interesting. It's like Japan's kind of one of the, not just Japan, Australia, South Africa, lots of friends in South Africa. It's like growing up, you know, when I turned 18, I just went straight out into the world, traveled around the world. And so it's not like I went there once. I went to these places several times, at friends and dinners and, you know, and surfs and laughs and so much stuff. It's like you become a part of the culture. So having that international sort of DNA in a way, I feel now that I live here in Australia, I feel even before I moved to Australia, I felt like I'm partly Australian, that just because I spent so much time here, I tell people that I get most of the jokes. But yeah, that kind of, I was fine to move to Australia because I'd been here so much. I'm like, yeah, I know people here, and I'm comfortable here, and same with Japan. Like, I've been to Japan over 70 times. You know, I feel comfortable there. And that's all through surfing. So anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd come on here live, let people know that I don't know where you could go, where you could find more detail on the frontside floater than what I just did and what I have up right now. So if any of the heavyweights want to weigh in, Slater, any of you guys, man, I'd love to hear from you. If you ask me a question I can't answer, I'm going to say I can't answer that, but I'm excited to go find the answer. I look at it from that place. I look at it like I'm still a student. I'm definitely still a student with each and every student that I train, because I'm learning from them, and I learn by listening, watching, and asking questions and stuff. So someone said, saw you shredding in Cape Town back in the 80s. Oh yeah, well, what a beautiful place, and I have the best memories of surfing in South Africa, especially Cape Town, because it's got so much variety. And we were lucky to have a competition back there that was called the Surfabout, and it would go all over the world. It looks like I got somebody that wants to call in right now. Let's see. Let's have a view request. Let's see if I can do that. Dan Loeb wants to go live. Oh yeah, Kelly. Nice to see you, buddy. I was hoping that you'd be in the Olympics. I wanted to watch you. Dan.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
Awesome to see you.
Thanks, awesome to see you too. Just for the people out there to know that I've been working with Dan for over
a decade.
Yeah, over a decade, maybe 13.
Even a little longer, yeah, since right before we went to the Mental Wise.
And unfortunately, he gets to surf once or twice a year, here, there. Had a couple injuries, and but is he's one of the first to do wave key.
It's been awesome.
Awesome, man.
You got me on a shortboard in my 40s, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of people make that transition.
Yeah, and still fun to ride a longboard too. You just you can
good to have that option.
Yeah, when you can move to a shortboard, I try to explain to people that it's a bit. You can get a little more intimate with the wave. You can get closer to the wave in the curl of the wave and things like that. With the longboard, and you're riding a little more on the softer part of the wave. Of course, I'm sure a lot of longboarders may argue with that, but yeah, it's just the space. The shorter board allows you to go into those places, and I see it as getting intimate. So. You got a question, Dan?
No, I just wanted to say hi.
Kelly said that's what body surfing's for. Now that's right. That's yeah. I think every surfer should learn to body surf. That's for sure. If you go surfing without a leash, you learn to body surf by just because it's gets you to your board faster. So that's what I recommend. Nice to see you, Dan.
Nice to see you.
See you soon on Zoom.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn this off. Can you kick me off?
just I think you just I don't know how to do it either. Let's see here. Let's get some technical help from my wife. There you go. Yeah. I don't know how to do it. Ask your son. You need someone younger. It says, I heard Kelly's trying to get Brad to coach him into the next Olympics. Well, he doesn't have to try. If he wants to jump in, and here he is, it's on offer. How are you, buddy?
What's going on?
I just went through a little tutorial on the front side floater.
Did you?
And you know how many variations of it there is, but the main point is how you get over that. When you're coming at that thing, if the front of your board hits it at all and slows your speed down at all, you try to just smoothly get over it, and then when you get over it, you pick up so much speed on top of the lip or whitewater float.
Is that for kind of like the one there's a clip you put up beforehand where you're kind of up on the lip as opposed to climbing it? You kind of come up on the lip and ride across it.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it's a bit of a sissy move because I don't want to hit it. I want to go. You can go around it. You can go around it, but sometimes it's like really. I mean, when I think of like Archibald used to do these super late ones.
Yeah, they're almost like he was almost doing like an off the top, but it turned into a floater. Yeah.
Well, you know how the wave would curl almost to the point where it was unable to get up there. He could, and this is, I went through this right here is you sink the board down and then you have to lift it up. And then if you can lift it up without getting hit by that lip and get right here, it just pushes you off of it. And then you gotta move your weight to the back foot so that you come down like an airplane, like that.
So like climbing the outside of the lip.
Yeah, and there's the shift of your body the shift of your lower body without your upper body going backwards. Otherwise, it kind of sends you in that window, the winding down the windows, which loses you can still pull it, but you lose your speed, you lose your momentum, and you lose the aesthetic of the actual turn. And I was just saying in the early 80s when I was in surf competitions that all of them would end probably the same as yours. They'd end except East Coast a little different, but might have been onshore the whole time. But it would go from being glassy in the morning and then it'd be low tide onshore closeouts at like Manhattan Beach or you just be like, okay, so we had to learn how to really do these like horizontal whitewater floaters and hopefully get to like an open pace at the end to do a turn to get a score. And you didn't really think about it, but they turned out to be something you could use later when you're at a point wave and you're really deep on the point wave and you're like, I think I can make this section. I just got to stay high and then float and then float and then float. Like there's that
lateral, that constant lateral climbing. Yeah.
And when you know this, when you come down from a floater and you're sort of in the white water, and then you can tip your board so that when the rail touches the green part of the wave, even if it's the flat, if you can touch it and then get back up there, those waves that are closing out or you're behind it. If you spend too much time in the flat, you slow down. But if you can go kick and get right back up and do another one, you can. They aren't the spectacular thing, but they're kind of the exciting thing. And then there's a certain size of wave you're like, that's not
Yeah, what's that?
that's
I
not an
I
option.
often think that if skaters, like if really good skaters that could like, jump 20 stairs or whatever, were surfers, and they went out at like back door off the wall, and they would hit those closeouts and try to stomp them in the flats. That would be fun to watch.
Well, yeah, that's a really good. I mean, imagine the speed they pick up going down those stairwells. But they come off of this. But see, the thing is, they come off of the stairwell. They don't come off of the stairwell 10 feet. They come at the bottom of even though they're going 1,000 miles an hour. When they come off of the stairwell, it's still the size of the stairwell. So that's the trick that I thought Archibald was super good at is when you hit the floater, if it's a big floater, if you can delay it so that when you come off of the wave, it's at the bottom of the wave and you can project out in front of it, you can pull it. But if you try to come off of the wave up too high and fly, like a back door or whatever, it's so hard to stay right over the top of the, your head right over the center of the board. I mean, what did you think
Yeah,
of it?
well, you gotta unweight and then compress at the same time, right? So you want to get low and wide, but if you're pushing on the board as you're going down, the board's going to kind of push away from you. So it's like that unweighting and just balancing it perfect up into the wind or with the speed or whatever.
What do you mean by
I
wide?
saw. What's that?
What do you mean? What do you mean by wide? You know what I mean? You got to
Well,
unweight.
if you're gonna have that big free fall drop, just wider stance, and just stability. Mark Sainsbury, backside floater king.
Yeah. And remember some of those floaters at Pedersen Rosa? His stance was so wide, so impressive. I thought I saw him doing some pretty good ones in Fiji, or maybe it was Reunion. I'm not sure, but I remember going, wow, he's the only guy doing a floater out at Chopu. Do you remember those?
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do those. If you're doing a floater at Chopu, you're fucked up somewhere in the first couple seconds you're riding.
I think those are worth a study, though. You know what I mean? I think those are worth going back and taking a look at. But I think you're right. So you're on the lip, and then you stay with the lip, and then before it has that shock wave, you can project away from it and get out into that. If you can do it from a low point, it's kind of similar to that handrail, right?
Yeah, you get that clean face out of it. I've often thought that, and I haven't seen anyone try it yet, but I've felt it in my own board where, like, let's say you climb a lip and then the wave pitches and you're just slightly above and behind that lip. As you're coming down, I think you can get enough energy off that to do a reverse or a shove it or something. You can get lift off of that pitching lip that you're on. So I'm waiting to see somebody's gonna get it. Maybe I should start trying it to tell like Eli Hanneman or one of those kids. But as you're starting to come out, kick the tail out and go into reverse and do a full reverse on the air out of on one of those ones that say 6 or 8 foot on the face.
What's the best float? Do you have like a memory of like one of the best ones you've ever done?
I don't know. I have the memory of one of the longest ones I ever did. Was in Rio. I was in heat with Ross Williams, and I got a big barrel, and then I had this super fast, long double up section, and I sort of got up on the lip, and it just let me keep finding the energy under the board, like to get some friction on the fins, get some tension on the fins, and I probably floated for about 20 yards or whatever up on this lip until it finally pitched and threw me out with it.
You pump on top of the lip? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can actually pump, and you can find some speed up there, but ultimately, eventually, it's going to pull you back down. But there is a little pocket you can kind of ride up on there, for sure.
I saw
Noah Budrose in the comments. He said Dino is the floater king.
Yeah, he was incredible at him. What I remember from Dino is the backside ones.
Yeah, the backside ones. Like I remember, like
Ocean
Beach or somewhere, like the PSAA contests.
I remember him doing them at Salt Creek, like just and then and throwing the tail towards the beat and rock and rolling them down. I definitely I definitely stole a little bit of that. What would you say? Like, what would you say is like the best floater you've ever seen? If you can, you remember, like, it's not a super spectacular thing, but it's kind of like, I don't know, some of those, maybe the rock and roll ones, you know, like, I don't know.
I think there was something nice to growing up when I did and when you did. You know, you were a couple years older than me, but at that time,
Not anymore, though. We
no,
caught
not
up.
anymore. I caught up. Oh,
Sorry,
oh,
someone was calling me.
oh, you cut off for a sec. Slap him. Don't call him.
Yeah.
You know, there was something to growing up in that era when everything wasn't filmed and you know, pictures were not all sequences because it wasn't digital and guys didn't want to waste their film, right? And
Yeah.
so when you ask me that, best floaters I've ever seen, there was one that Richard Schmidt did at Sunset back in the early 90s or maybe it was the late 80s. And he's on a big board and there's about an 8 or 10 foot wave. And he did this floater and I only saw a picture of it, but it put so many seeds in my brain. Excuse me. It put so many seeds in my brain of what you could do. You know, what are the possibilities? And Shane Horan used to talk about doing 360s on big open faces, like a proper carving turn all the way around where you're not really using the lip, you're carving it completely instead of doing like a tail release. And he talked about it at Sunset, but I think Sunset's too flat for it personally. I think Holly has a much better wave for that. But probably the best floaters, and obviously they're dated, like, so for the time, the best floaters I ever saw were probably Mark Sainsbury in the World Championships against Boothie and all those guys in '86 in England. And it was like the floater wasn't really a maneuver yet, and Sanga had that real wide stance with a low center of gravity, and he would just get up on these backside floaters. He was a regular footer. A lot of people on here wouldn't even know that name. Unfortunately, Sanga died of a brain aneurysm when he was surfing on the Central Coast back in '91 or '92.
Really sad. Really sad.
Yeah. But he was a great surfer, and he had that really low center of balance, so that was a maneuver that really fit him well. And he seemed to be able to just stay up on the lip forever. And it's like he found that extra little bit of pocket of speed up there. And I'd love to see some footage of that.
Yeah. I think it's worthy of going back and looking at footage, you know, all the way back to when you could see film, really. But going back and looking at certain things, maybe how like light footed do you have to be to do a floater? There's a lightness to it that, especially when there's like all that turbulence in the white water. Do you see it as kind of like almost like a bit of the word float is kind of refers to it being slightly aerialistic, you know?
Yeah, I think there's something to that because it's, you know, a lot of airs aren't set up with a deep bottom turn, just like floaters aren't. You know, it's a more lateral kind of horizontal maneuver. And
Yeah.
So I would think a lot of, and doing airs is unweighting, but also keeping your, either grabbing and corking air, or just keeping your weight and above it gravity wise. So I would think, obviously, guys who are good at airs would be really good at floaters. You know, maybe more than a power surfer. I think you have to be light a little bit on your feet to do the proper lengthwise, super long, and free fally kind of floaters. You know, like Tom Carroll stands out for doing a carve at Pipeline, but not for doing a floater at Chopu.
Yeah, because I think Tom's, you know, with respect to Tom, I think Tom's quite heavily back-footed.
Yeah.
And a floater, you know, requires moving the weight forward. But in saying that, I'm sure you can still do some pretty sick ones. But but like someone who's maybe, I think of Machado too. He like gets up onto a floater and seems to move his back foot even forward to get maybe
Who does?
Machado.
Oh, Rob. Yeah, Rob's so light on his feet.
Yeah, yeah.
So precise. That's one thing. I just surfed with Rob so much through the 90s, 80s and 90s, and that was the one thing about him. He's maybe the most precise surfer of all time.
His when we were at Macaroni's on our September session trip, he was so precision. I was like, wow, that's some of the most precise surfing I've ever seen. That was a really fun trip. It was pretty funny seeing you. We'd been there for 2 days getting barreled off our head, and then you showed up like, and I remember thinking, go for it, Kelly. I'm so tired. Just entertain us, bro. And you were like, ah! That was so fun to watch.
I was so just to give some people a background on that. So Thicker Than Water, the movie Thicker Than Water that Jack Johnson filmed and Chris Malloy helped put together and produce and edit and all that stuff. They released that just the week we were going on that trip to do September sessions, which we didn't know what it was going to be called, right? But I agreed with Chris that I would fly to Tokyo with him, and maybe Osaka. I forget where we went, but we went and did premieres for Thicker Than Water, and so I had already agreed with him to do that months before or whatever. So on the way to Indo to meet you guys, I stopped in Tokyo for like 2 or 3 days to go do that, and so I missed what Ross and Shane made sure to let me know was maybe the best day of surf they ever had at Lance's Rights. Right, so you guys are out there for like 2 days getting just piped off your heads, and then you have to come 90 miles back into the mainland to get me overnight. And me and Luke Egan jumped on he got in the same time I did. And I remember getting on the boat with you guys, and you guys all were like, we might leave. We just got the best waves we've ever seen. And I was like, that's killer. All right. Thanks, guys. Great to go on a trip with you. And you guys are so fried already. And the whole time I was just psyching. I never got the surf you guys did. I got fun waves, but
Shane and I, it was so funny because Shane and I, before we surfed, anytime, you, Shane, we all got together, we're always like, so excited. Like, hey, what's up? I was so excited. I remember saying to Shane, or Shane saying to me, going, dude, I can't believe we only have 11 days. Like, it's like, it seems so short, like 11 days, right? And then Shane and I surfed 8 hours the first day and 8 hours the second day. It was like 16 hours in 2 days in the equatorial sun, and just burned. And I remember before you got there, I remember looking at Shane, and Shane looking at me going, dude, I like, how am I even gonna surf? Like, I don't even, like, should we just go? Like, we're not gonna like, I don't know how I'm going to surf tomorrow. That's like, there's no way. So when you showed up, we were like, yay, rather than like, oh no, another person to take waves, like, it was like, yeah, entertain us, man, go for it. and I remember just sitting there watching you going, man, bat out of the cage, just, you did this top turn that was so sick in front of me. Came off the bottom with so much projection, and he just hooked it. There was no hesitancy. No, a lot of people go up and do a top turn and they get stuck because they put too much weight on the back foot. So they position the turn radically, but don't come out of the turn. He just went up there and went wham, and came right out of the turn. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that was the best top turn I ever seen. You remember
that was Rob?
It was you.
Or that was me?
Yeah, that was you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. Where were we at? We were at
it was at Lance's.
Lance's?
It was at Lance's, right? Yeah, we were.
Those are
You were
That was
shredding.
fun. That was Frostfest.
That was
Yeah, that was a fun trip,
insane.
man. It's crazy to think that was 21 years ago. So we, I had talked to Jack months before that trip, like maybe 3 months before the trip, and asked him if he wanted to come film, and he agreed to it. And then I talked to Morrow about it, because Morrow was setting that trip up, Chris Morrow, and I said, well, I'm happy to go, but I want to be able to bring a filmer and make a movie. And he's like, okay, cool, no worries. And then we get there, and Sonny Miller and Dave Homestead are also on the boat filming. I'm like, fuck, I thought I sorted this out where, and but it was all fun. But we had this idea that we were going to just have one camera on the boat and make a film from that. And so it was a little of a surprise because Surfer was going to shoot their own thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
guy Miller.
Miller was amazing, man.
I couldn't eat sambal for like 10 years after that. I couldn't even smell it because remember the cook got sick and had to bail off the trip, so the first mate had to cook all our food. I mean, and Machado's, do you get seasick? I get seasick. I think Shane gets seasick. I think Machado gets seasick. Well, how weird is that? We're like, get me off the boat. I'll be fine if I get off the boat. It's just on the boat. Yikes,
Yeah, that's funny. I get seasick for the first day I'm on a boat, and then once I either throw up or get past that first day, I'm fine. But it's just that first day of moving around, which it's weird though, because if I go on a small boat, like a really small boat, I don't get seasick at all. I could be all out there all day long. Maybe if diesel fumes are in my face or something, but
yeah.
But
what'd you think of the Olympics?
Olympics,
a loaded question. I wish you were in it.
No, it's not a loaded question. Much. No. No. Look, it was, say what you want about the surf conditions or whatever. I'm glad they got surf. I was worried that there was going to be nothing. And, to see there was going to be a typhoon swell right through that period of time. And I suppose the Olympics allowed them to pick their days too, based on conditions. I'm just assuming, but there was a little confusion around that because even the guys in the contest were saying, and girls were saying that the format changed during the Olympics. Like they thought it was going to be one thing, and then it was switched to a different format after round one. That's what I heard, but that's kind of hearsay. I thought it was interesting. I thought Barton was really good at the commentary to be color. And I didn't see the TV stuff. There was some NBC stuff. I was going to actually go to Connecticut and do commentary with Joe Turpel. If I didn't get the spot, if a spot didn't open up for me. So I was kind of waiting in the wings trying to figure out which boards I'd be riding and get my mental competition head on. In that week or two lead up to it, just waiting to see if I got a call that, John or Kalohe were either re-injured or chose not to serve or something like that. So I was just kind of on call for that, but I couldn't get my mind in the two places. Like I'm either going to do commentary or I'm going to surf. So I just went, well, I'll just surf if it comes up. I'm not going to do commentary, and I'll focus on that. If the
surfing,
yeah, and then if surfing doesn't happen, whatever, then it's fine. I'll just watch it. So I watched it the other night, stayed up late. I thought I was trying to put my head on, like, if I was just a person being exposed to a surf contest for the first time I had never watched. And I thought it was, man, it's hard. I'd like to talk to people who don't surf, who watched it. But to me, it felt like a little bit compelling because you could see Barton was good enough about talking about how the pace of a heat works and what you're looking for and how the guys spread out, and then they'll use their priority in the last 5 or 10 minutes to kind of interfere on the other guy's game or whatever. And to me, I could understand how even with not such great surf, it might be compelling for people who just like competition. I think the people I expected to do well did well. Obviously, I thought I was expecting for Italo and Gabriel to sort of be number 1 and 2. You know, that's just on paper. I thought Cano was going to be an outside shot at it. I thought Julian and Owen had sort of an outside shot, and along with Kolohe. John did look still injured to me. He looked like he was protecting his knee, and you know, if there's like any kryptonite whatsoever for John, it's small mushy waves. Whereas, like, you know, he excels at anything with speed or barrels or airs. So it's, you know, only in small mushy waves would I say he's susceptible. And then you know, someone like Italo is so fired up, and Gabriel finds so much speed. Those two guys just seem to make crazy things happen on little tiny waves. And and the fact that Felipe wasn't in on the team, I think, was a crime. I mean, it's just unfortunate that he was geographically challenged, and that's the only thing. I mean, he's from Brazil, so he couldn't be on the team.
They should have a wild card situation, though. The best of the best should be there.
I'm a little critical of that process. I haven't read all the bylaws and what I'm allowed to talk about, but to be honest, I think the qualification process, you know, Fernando did his best to, they said, okay, if surfing's going to be in, it needs a qualification process, and you have to make that tangible so we understand it. And so, you know, obvious for him, they've got the ISA games, so that was the most easily tangible way, as opposed to just going off the world rankings. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I found out it was in the Olympics, I thought, if I can make that, and you know, if I were to medal, I would probably retire at that time competitively. But
the
just
next one being at Chopu, though, I think, I mean, you'd like to. You're not going to retire before then, are you? I know everybody out there is going to be like, dude.
Well, yeah.
You know that
I'm
place.
not announcing my retirement right now, but I don't foresee myself being. I don't foresee myself being a full-time competitor from here till then. But I also don't think that in 3 years, that I still think that in 3 years I could be competitive at Chopu for sure.
Definitely.
You know, it's just a tube skill, and just putting time out there and stuff, and from small to big, you start to learn a lot of little tricks. And
it's tube skill and an innate knowingness of the winning waves, and you're the best at it, best ever at it. So, you know, I hope you're healthy and you qualify for it. I know I'm not just speaking as an American. I think I'm speaking as a global surfer.
Oh, thanks.
We all dig watching you in that kind of surf.
So. Thanks. I would you know, if I could qualify for the Olympics at Chopu, I would love to. That would be great. I just don't know if, with the process you have to go through, whether I'll be in that conversation, because you got to be on tour, top 2 on tour from your country, and then they start to fill it in with other countries. And I don't know if between now and then I can find a relative in my last 2 generations from another country and switch my switch out to like Barbados or somewhere.
Right.
You know, maybe, I mean, Florida's its own country to itself. You know, that's like, they almost should have like the U.S. team, the Florida team, the Texas team, and the Hawaii team, because those are all kind of their own places.
Yeah, they are, for sure. Different accents.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, you know, will just on that note, a lot of people have asked me what I thought about Hawaii having a team and separate to the U.S. And I actually thought that would be really cool because of the lineage of the sport, because of surfing starting in Hawaii when it was its own kingdom, and then it's spreading out across the world for there. I think it would be a really cool tip of the hat if Hawaii itself had its own team separate to the U.S. just for surfing. And I think it would be totally legit. Obviously, you have enough talent. You just won the gold with Carissa from Hawaii, and obviously John and Seth Moniz, and all the other great surfers from Hawaii. There's no.
I need an uninjured John in those conditions on the final day.
Yeah.
I would really would have liked to watch that.
Yeah, those conditions weren't unlike what John won his first tour event in Rio against Jack Freestone. Barreling, kind of windy, big air sections, etc. The only bad thing about that final day, I wish the tide was high at the end of the day. I wish it was low in the morning and getting higher, because there were clearly better waves when it was high tide, like that one wave Michel Perez got, that nice barrel wave. It could have been some nice double ups and tubes and a little less frustration by the surfers if it was higher tide.
Let me ask you, because I know you know so much about this. EPS, was Italo using EPS boards? I know maybe Perez was. How many of the guys and girls using EPS versus traditional polyurethane foam?
I don't know. In the games, I actually don't know that.
I had heard that he used that Italo was riding an EPS, and that's what he was riding, and to me, I was kind of surprised, because I thought those conditions, bumpy and windy and just all those things, I would think the feeling of a polyurethane, that little bit heavier. You've ridden so many more EPS than I have. I don't have a lot of experience with EPS, but would you have ridden an EPS board on or a polyurethane?
I'm not sure. Whatever board felt best in those. I would have probably gone out early that morning and tried a couple boards out.
Would you have tried an EPS on and you would have had your, like, how many different boards would you have sort of tried on that morning? Because your time and your energy and all those types of things you're trying to figure out.
I probably would have had it narrowed down to 2 boards and just tried 2 different boards out. But that final day was really, there was power, but it was really about the air. So, the airs were scoring the biggest.
But Italo didn't win doing airs in the final.
Not in the final he didn't. But I guess that didn't really present itself. But a lot of those other heats were just put away real quickly with a big air. And like Kanoa's air against Gabriel in the semis. There's been a lot of debate about that. Did you watch that whole heat? Because I only saw Gabriel's airwave, like Gabriel's airwave and Kanoa's airwave, and I just went, well, Kanoa's was better, but I didn't see the whole heat. And a lot of Brazilians have reached out to me asking me to speak up about it and my thoughts and blah blah. And
why did you think Kanoa's was better?
His air.
Yeah.
Oh, he just to me, he covered more ground and free fell further and landed it so clean. And it wasn't the highest air in the world. I mean, it was pretty high, but he free fell after a complete full rotation all the way into the flats and just stuck it, like greased that landing. And I like that, but I didn't see both rides from each guy, so I can't really speak on it. I tried to watch it yesterday, but I got caught up doing other things, and I want to watch it back again. But I did watch. I'll just say I did watch the Michel Gabriel heat, because Chewy Reyna had mentioned to me, "Oh, what'd you think on that? The scores?" And I went back and watched it, and I think if Michel had stayed in that barrel instead of doggy dooring it and come out clean, and then just come out with speed and had a big carve or something, he was probably gonna come close to matching Gabriel's 9 or whatever it was, whatever that score was. So that would have evened that heat up a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed the quarterfinals. I didn't get to watch them. Back to the Kanoa and Gabriel heat. I thought that Kanoa had a wave. His second wave, well, his first wave, he did a air reverse, and if you really look at the section, the wave was going like this, and instead of going up here and going up in there and going like up like that, which I think that's where the real difficult, like really difficult to do a turn when right up in here. So he went past that point, and then he flew out here and did an air reverse, didn't land it that cleanly, and then did another turn, but the other turn was a real contest looking type of turn. So you got a 7.7. Kanoa, yeah, he got a 7.7 or something, a point, I suppose, not even a point less than Gabriel's Gabriel's first wave, which was a backside air. Where he came almost all the way around, I would say, and then he landed sort of in the turbulence, pulled it really clean. It was stylish too. And I look at like Kanoa's air, and I didn't think his air was very stylish. I thought it was sort of flat. Like if you think about like some of those ones at Felipe, like sort of tweaks the board and throws the fins at the beach and gets a twist into it and stuff. I think those have got so much more. They're so much more like, they're like, I don't know, they just have so much more. I didn't think it was a point, like, it was nearly a point better than Gabriel's. So I did think he landed it perfectly. I did think it was pretty high. And it was just kind of like, sometimes I just watch and I sometimes go, oh, that's the score for sure. And then other times I watch and I go, that's pretty good, but I don't know. And I mean, I know that's a tough call for the judges, but I felt like it was a little bit overscored. But that's based on I didn't think it was super stylish either, and he grabbed, I don't know, but that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody else asked me, what's your thought on Julian and Gabriel's feet? I did watch that one, and I thought that Gabe won fair and square. I was actually really kind of pulling for Julian during this past week, because he's announced that he's kind of maybe retiring or taking time off or not going to finish the tour out this year. And I just thought it'd be a pretty cool story if Julian went on to win in that situation. I thought a cool final would be Julian against Kanoa being on the Japanese team. And it's anyway. I didn't.
I'm going to say something that I just think Kanoa needs to surf more radically. It's not that, I mean, he's very good. I'm being hyper critical, but I just think he needs to learn how to place his board in more critical positions and get more leverage, because to me he looked really exposed. Anytime he got away from the power, he lost speed and things like that. But that's I'm being hyper critical, but I think he needs to learn how to surf more radical, basically, to take it to Italo. I think Italo surfs is super radical, and I love the way he surfs. Yeah. I love where he positions his board and how much he goes on full attack. He's going into a section, doesn't look like he's going to hold back at all. And I think to beat him, you've just got to surf more. You've got to surf as radical or more radical than him to be the best. And I think Kanoa's got the capability if he can get better technically.
Yeah. Sometimes I see Kanoa surf, and he's so fast, and he has a lot of variety, and he's so quick at linking one thing to another. The combos he's so good with. If I was going to get critical, I think sometimes he goes a little bit flat on his turns, and maybe that's what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about.
And and it looks radical, but it's not a power thing, maybe.
It's critical. It's being able to hold the speed in a critical position in a very hard place to do a turn. You would know this stuff. You do them, and Yeah, it's the way the body is, the way the body positions the attack. I
Yeah.
think I think both Felipe and Italo are full attack guys, and Gabriel looks a little bit more calculated to me than Italo and Felipe, and that's why I like
Yeah.
Felipe a little more than I appreciate Gabriel surfing a lot, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny one. I think Gabriel is sort of technically as sound as anyone's ever been.
yeah, no,
He can
I
do
see
everything.
it.
He
I
can
see it.
barrel ride, he can carve, he can, there's nothing. He can ride shitty waves. He's proven
Right.
to be good in big barrels. Like, he's won everywhere. He's figured out how to win everywhere. And I think there's a thing about surfing where there's like the sport side of surfing and there's artistic side of surfing. And surfing started more as like a nature experience and being sort of one with the energy, right? And that turned in, I guess that turned into more of like an artistic personal endeavor that you just leave out there as opposed to like a contest. So 99.9% of people are never going to compete when they surf. So in some ways it either irks people or doesn't relate to them or it's not interesting to them. I think Gabriel's about as good a contest surfer as there ever will be. He can just he can go out and he can formulate a plan to beat anyone. And I think that's pretty amazing. And he has the skill to do it. And what he generally will do is he'll go out and he'll real quickly catch a bunch of waves and get ahead of you. And then he puts pressure on you and then you crumble. And the only times you really see him maybe get, I wouldn't say dominated, but beaten in a heat is when he's forced to not take a lot of waves. If somebody gets ahead of him and the time gets to a certain position and he has to sit and just hope the ocean gives him something to work with, that's when that's the only time he's susceptible, to
What
losing.
about that heat with Connor at Pipe? Connor was way ahead of him. I thought Connor missed a little opportunity and made some tactical errors, but like he
He
was
totally
way out
did.
ahead.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was insane. The waves came right to Gabriel, and he performed insane.
Yeah.
Like
I remember watching that heat and I was just like, there was one wave. I forget if Connor took this one wave or just lost his priority. I forget what. And right then I was just like, oh my God, I could feel it in my bones. Like the energy just changed and Gabriel's going to win this thing. And he just did everything. He boom, 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 boom. And he didn't make a wrong decision. And, it's only when you make that guy think that he can make a mistake. If he's not thinking, if he's just like, if he's blacking out and just catching a bunch of waves, he's got you done,
on that point, do you think his the bronze matchup with Owen? You think the wind was out of his sails a bit, and that
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. He looked a little bit defeated overall. Body, his sort of, just the way he looked inside his skin. I think he was probably so let down he didn't have that chance for that gold already. That
emotional. It seems emotional for Gabriel. I mean, for you, for me, for like a lot of us. It's really Andy Irons. Like a lot of.
well, it's emotional for not if it's not emotional for you, you shouldn't probably be doing it. Like
you find that emotional side of it is where you go in and you can do things that maybe you didn't even know you could do. You've done some stuff that it's like, you must be like,
I've had things turn in my favor where I was like, did that really just happen? I mean, probably the most obvious one was surfing against Timmy Reyes, who I just played golf with Timmy a couple of days ago. I surfed against Timmy in the semifinals at Pipe in 2008, and he had me comboed, and I got a 9.5 on the left and a 10 on the right in 90 seconds, and I was like, whoa, okay, that just happened. He was comboed. And
dude, the first time I surfed against you, I had you on the ropes and you got a 10. I was like, what?
That shit happens, man. You gotta watch
I know. I was like, what? There's no way he's gonna beat me. I'm not letting that happen.
I was telling this story the other day of me and you had a heat when I was 18. I was just about to go home and start my senior year high school, and I stayed and surfed because I did well at Lacanau, right? I got third and Tom won. And then they had that Sud-West Surf Trophy, and it was an extra like 15 or 20 grand for the best in the 3 events. And so I remember telling my mom, I was going to miss the first week of school if I do well in Hossegor. So if I go to Hossegor and I can get like a 5th or better, then I'm in for maybe making all this money on this Sud-West Trophy. And I ended up with you in the round of 17, and it was at Hossegor, and it was kind of getting highish tide. It was a little bit flat, and there was kind of like a channel on the left side of the peak, but it was pretty much all rights, and we were surfing away from that channel. And we get down to the end of the heat, and you're winning, and I need about a 5.5, I think, to beat you. And you have priority, and there's like 2 minutes left or 90 seconds or something. And this wave comes, and I'm like, oh my God, he's too far out, and it's the best wave I've seen in the heat. And so we're paddling, and I catch it, and you miss it. And now you've used your priority, and you've missed the wave, and I need a 5.5. And I'm like, all I got to do is ride this wave, and I beat Brad Gerlach. And as I'm bottom turning, I hear you go, fuck, super loud. And I did a bottom turn, and a backwash kind of hit me, and I kind of started laughing, and I fell. Oh, it was so good.
I remember when I drew you, it was like half a foot or 1 foot. And I was like, of course, I got to draw Kelly Slater when it's a half a foot. Like, God, why couldn't it be good? And our heat was like the last heat of the day. And the wave started out super small and then just grew throughout the day. And by the time our heat was out there, it was like glassy, and like the waves looked incredible. I was like, yes, I was so psyched. And I just wasn't strategic enough I just went balls to the wall. I love surfing against you because I was like, I'm just going to go for it as much as I possibly can go for it. And it won't matter whether I win or I lose. This is just be super fun, So
you remember we had in at Grand Plage in Biarritz?
Oh yeah, I was like, oh man, it's small. He's gonna beat me on this one. So I wish you were coaching me.
You way over in the corner, and I surf more towards the center of the beach. I don't know if you remember this. And that was when it was top 3 rides, right? And you had 5 judges. There's a different scoring system then, because I remember you could get like 100 points. If you had a really good heat, you got 100 points, right?
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I don't remember how that worked, but
100 points is like 375s, something like that. Anyways, I had you beat in the heat, and it was coming down to the end. And that was when the priority rule used to be, if you're a mile down the beach and you ride that same swell, you get an interference. Remember that?
Yeah, that happened to me.
Yeah, and so it almost happened in that heat too, but I was nice because I was already ahead of you. And this wave came, and the way that it hit the beach, you took off and went right before the swell ever got to me, and I had priority.
Yeah.
And looking at it, I'm like, I can just go and give him interference, but I'm already winning the heat, and that would be a real dick move. But I can't do it. I can't do it.
In the contest before that one, I was up against Stuart Bedford Brown.
Yep. At Hossegor.
In Hossegor, and I got a wave.
That channel, I remember that.
I got a wave that was like not even connected to his wave, and they gave me a priority interference. It was like and by the time, and then when we got to Grand Plage or whatever, and I got you in my heat, I was already emotionally, I'd broken up my girlfriend. I just was not in this. I was not in the space of like, I was like, I really needed a coach to be like, here's a lifesaver, Brad. Like, we need to. There's only 3 months left, and you can win the world title here, dude. Like, let's just focus in and do what you do. But I needed that, But like, yeah, that was a stupid rule. I'm glad they don't do that anymore. The worst one I ever saw was Tom Carroll at Pipe with Todd Holland. That was the worst one ever.
I got the same thing happen to me in '92. The first year I won that title, we get to Japan, and I'm surfing at Sunny. And he has priority, and we're both paddling for about a 1 foot wave. I actually just saw this on video a couple months ago. We're both paddling for a wave, and he stands up super quick. and I'm like on my last stroke, pulling back as he stands up. And you know, the rule used to be if you even take a stroke while that guy's getting to his feet, you get interference.
Yeah.
There was no logic behind it other
Yeah.
than like some kind of like, I don't know who came up with that rule, if it was Ian and PT and the NSSA days or what. There was like, because the reason I bring those guys up is because they were really technical, right? And and Ian helped start the ASP. But so Sonny paddles. He stands up real quick. I get the interference. He stands up and he goes like this to the judge, and he doesn't even try to ride the wave. He just goes, points at me like that's interference, and it's top 3 rides, and instantly they call an interference on me, and I think I had like a 9 and an 8. I ended up with 2 9s in the heat, and Sonny had like 3 7s or a couple of 3 6s, and I just barely lost to him. I was so mad, and then you know, because I could almost, I think I could have tied the world title up at that event, because then we went to Brazil the next week or 2 weeks later, and so I remember just like freaking out. It was the first time, maybe the only time I ever rushed the judges stand and started punching the door. I was so mad, so fired up. It was the same contest where Kaipo Hakia chased down Shane Herring, and Shane had to run away from him, hide in his hotel because they had some interference thing too or whatever.
Were you hanging with Doug Silva because he loved to do that?
Yeah, maybe. But Sonny, ironically, Sonny had to come calm me down after he beat me. It was funny.
Oh man, yeah. I guess, you know, one of the
it
things
wasn't quite as bad as you and Potts, Laura.
Oh man, that was just funny. That was the same year too, you know. But I was gonna say that I hadn't ever really thought about it, and then I recently just thought about it. Like if I would have stayed on tour, I feel like I really loved when you first came on tour. I was so stoked you were on there because I love the way you surf, and I was like, fuck, someone who's not gonna be a contest machine, someone who's gonna just like, you know, do crazy surfing, and then I quit, and I think, man, if I didn't quit, maybe I would have had like some really fun heats with you, you know, just because I had a mental thing where when I surfed against somebody I thought I surfed better than, I was like, I'd be worried that I was going to lose to them. And then if I surfed against somebody who I thought was better than me, I would be like, great, I'm just going to go ham. And that sort of let me open up.
There's a total mentality to, for sure, because on a percentage basis, I've probably lost more heats to guys I should have beaten, like wild cards, than against guys, my contemporaries. You know, I'd have a heat with Mick, and I would not have a nerve in my body, like not nervous to try stuff, not nervous to make decisions. Whereas like if you feel like you're against someone you should beat, you try to protect it before you even get a lead, and you surf defensively or you compete defensively. So, you know, there's
it doesn't work. It's like you're thinking of knowing what I know now is you're thinking of the future and you're thinking of the worst case scenario, and you need to wipe that from you and just think about and be in the moment, you know, and just be like, it's okay, just be in the moment, you know, and chances are you're going to win, you know, and you not think about the negative and not think about what could happen or all this stuff, and then being so young and not traveling with somebody that I could trust and could talk with, and you know, tell somebody, like, be vulnerable and be like, man, I'm nervous. And, you know, you couldn't really walk up to Hoyo and say like, I'm nervous. He'd be like, fuck, just fucking suck it up, man. Fucking get out there. You know what I mean? You know, you just look at me and go, what for? You know?
Just stall on me.
You know, and, oh yeah, right. Yeah, no, I can't be nervous, you know? And I think, do you have one of the things that I think you're really good at is impressions, and I think when we first met we started on impressions, and everybody always asked me to do my Aki impressions. Do you have an Aki impression?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I've often told this one story where um, when I was like 14, the movie Beyond Blazing Boards came out. Chris Bystrom film, Hoodoo Gurus and Gangajang and that whole soundtrack. And Keckley was on tour, and he used to film all around the world and bring home the videos. Like, I love the videos from Australia. He'd come home with 3-4 hours of video from contests and free surfs and traveling up the coast and kangaroos and koalas. You know, it was like so exciting for me as a kid going, well, I'm going to go there one day. Yeah. And I'd sit there. Sometimes he'd sit me in front of his TV and just go, okay, push play and tell me when you're done. And I'd watch his videos, him and Charlie Kuhn. Anyway, so he was in Australia for that season that movie was made. And there was a Surfers Against Nuclear Destruction contest up in Murwillumbah or somewhere.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Remember that.
And not Murwillumbah. Where was it? Way up north somewhere. Anyways. Malula, yeah. So Aki ends up, it didn't show the context of it in the movie, but he does this air reverse, not an air reverse, but he does this air and he grabs the rail. I think he grabs slob maybe, and he lands backwards and he rides out. And it was, I found out later on, I talked to Keck about that, and Keck goes, oh, that was in the expression session. He goes, I just paddled in. He's like, what was I going to do? Because at the time, that was like the most radical air that maybe had ever been done, you know? And yeah. And so I told Aki that story. I'm like, oh, I told Keck that's, you know, I asked Keck about that, and he told me how you guys were in an expression session, and he told me, oh, after I saw that air of Aki's, I just paddled in. And he goes, yeah, mate, they all paddled in. Like that. It was so funny. Just like,
I was there. I was at that contest. It was the Billabong Surf into Summer in 1984. It was my first trip to Australia. Yeah, that was I had a black surfboard actually, and I remember meeting Bruce Lee, and he's like, "Oh, you're that cat that has the black board," you know, like he was like, you know, I had such a good time. I was with Brett Hodge, Dave Kennedy, and Bruce Lee, and I remember Aki doing that, and I was like, wow, that was so radical. And my little story with Aki, I have so many, but one of the things was Aki was on that Dancing with the Stars thing, and did you happen to see that?
Yeah, I saw it, but the one day I was out surfing at I was surfing at Snapper one day, and I knew it was going on. Like, Aki was supposed to be on TV the next night, so I like mentioned it to him. He's all, mate, I've been trying to go to practice, but like, the waves have been that good, I haven't been able to go to practice, mate. I'm gonna be bad. And he was like so nervous, but he couldn't get out of the water. He was doing like 8-hour days when he's supposed to be doing his dance routines.
That's amazing. That is a cool tie to the story about, you know, because I watched him on there. He wasn't very good. And you know, it's kind of interesting, you know, how he can be so good at surfing and not be good at dancing, but you know, he wasn't. And then the guy, you know, they came up for review, and the guy's like, you know, Mark, you got like 2 left feet, you know, or whatever, you know, you're not good. It's good that you're really good at surfing, but you know, you stick to surfing, you know, like you know, whatever, right? And yeah, you could see on Aki's face, he wasn't like, yeah, you're right, I suck or whatever. He was he was looking at the guy like you could see he was hurt. And I was like, whoa, he's pretty bummed, you know? And I was like, how could he think that he was, I don't know, how could he think he was dancing well? And
he was kind of sitting there letting the girl dance.
I mean, I thought it was rad that he did it. He's so entertaining. Even if he doesn't dance good, he's super fun to watch. You know what I mean? Like, he's just such an entertaining person. And then I saw him, and so I saw him in the water, and I was like, and I said to him, I said, hey, I go, man, what a bummer you didn't like advance in the dancing. And I thought he was gonna go, yeah, I suck at it. And he goes, yeah, you know, I mean, the guy was like really telling me I was doing well and everything behind, and I, yeah. And then when they dropped in on me, I was like, I couldn't believe it, eh? And I just thought, I was like, oh my God, like, well, how is he, like that was kind of, and I think, here, he doesn't like me imitating him. He doesn't like anybody imitating him. You know what I mean? And so I
Hey,
kind
I
of
feel his
put it
pain
on.
because when I watch Tyler Allen's videos, I'm like, oh shit, do I talk like that?
Oh, when he imitates you?
When Tyler Allen imitates me, I'm like, oh no, he's good. He's good.
He does a pretty good job of it. Yeah, yeah. But I look at, what I do? I look at my wave key and I think, oh my God, I told Sterling, because Sterling's coming back from an injury, I'm like, hey, I'll help you, you want to, I'll take you through some wave key. I'm like, you're going to have a lot of material on being able to imitate me. But yeah, well, the best person I ever saw imitate Aki was Shane Herring. And so I pretty much
Really?
copy Shane's version of Aki. Yeah, I remember Shane did this thing. He did this thing where he went and he looked off and he was like, yeah, well, like he did this, like the way he did his face, he tucked his hair behind his ear and did his whole like rolled his eyes and everything. I was like, oh my God, it was amazing, So anyway, the super fun talking with you. You got any questions for me?
Where are you? You're on the Goldie now, right? Full time?
Yeah, we moved.
You enjoying
it? Pardon me?
You liking it up there better, surf wise and stuff?
Not so much surf wise. I missed all the kind of good surf because we were moving and all this during that time. But what I really like is that my kids, we can play around in the water up here, and it's warm, and I got a lot of friends up here, and if I get a little bit of a surf, that's cool. But the number one thing is just the happiness of my wife and my kids to be in a warmer environment, because we're kind of stuck wherever we live up here. We're kind of stuck in where we live for now, and so yeah.
Yeah.
When are you coming back?
It sounds like you're getting soft in your old age. You're thinking of other people first and stuff like that.
So soft. It's the only way to be, because people. The worst is that you go the opposite direction and you get harder.
Yeah, it's funny, huh?
When are you coming back?
Shit, I don't know. I don't know when they'll let me back in the country. Next year, I guess, sometime. It would have been a nice time. Did you get some of that Kira last week?
It wasn't last week. It was like a couple of weeks ago or whatever. I missed
couple
it.
Weeks, yeah.
That was right when about 85 boxes showed up on our lawn, and I was in the middle of the move, and I had to get stuff organized before all our artwork and electronics, got nailed by the rain, and I just kind of was. Yeah, it's 2 kids under 5, full time. Got to make sure everybody's comfortable, and I can't put myself first. So I missed it.
Yeah.
But it's all right. Yeah, nobody feels bad for me. I've had enough good waves in my life.
who's a real surf junkie up there on the Gold Coast is Shane Horan. Shane's just every day, all day.
Shane is why we moved here. Shane had a buddy who had a friend, because it's really hard to get a place. So through Shane, he helped us get our place. So yeah, nice. I love Shane, and
Epic.
Yeah, totally. I'm looking forward for you to come back. Go surfing.
Yeah, I can't wait. We got to hang. I was hanging out with Shane a couple of years ago quite a bit, and I had dinner at his house. This is going back about 6 years now, and we're just talking about fins. We went in his garage, and he showed me a bunch of his single fins, and he hand foils things. And, he's one of the only guys in the world I know that has more fins in his garage than I do. And but he's ridden every one of them. It's really interesting.
You'll have to come to my garage. I got a lot of fins, dude.
Yeah. Well, we started talking about equipment back when everything went from, singles to twins to thrusters. And then at one time you had all 3 of those boards on tour, right? Guys riding, Shane's on the singles, Dane and MR on twins. Other guys are going to thrusters at early 80s. And he said to me, he said, I wish I had gone to the thruster at that time, because he realized that it cost him, probably at least one world title, maybe two or three. But he said he was just so stubborn about it, and he would not conform.
I talked to him about it at the time, and I would tell him, I'm not afraid to speak and tell people my opinion. Sometimes it's unsolicited. I learned like not to do that and wait to see if the person was open and receptive. But with Shane, he was like my hero. I said, dude, you should be riding these sports that we're all riding here. Like you're. And I also told him, I'm like, you gotta like extend your body more. You're staying too squatty for too long. He remembers it. He remembers me. I mean, I said it in a nice way. I didn't say it like.
Yeah.
I also told Sean Thompson, I'm like, you're doing too many wiggles. Like you're wiggling too much. Like and Sean said to me, I'm all, if you just went from turn to turn to turn, you're gonna score higher. And Sean was like, I have to do those, otherwise I'll slow down. I was like, okay, but like, I'm just think back and think like, God, they must have looked at me like, shut up, Grom. But it was coming from a good place, and I do remember talking with Shane about it, and I wish that he moved on to a thruster. But anyway, he's such a beautiful guy. He's such a passionate guy about surfing, positive, upbeat, super fun.
Yeah, I talked him into making himself a twin fin last year, so he's been riding a twin fin a little bit. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have seen him on a twin fin in the early '80s. Shane was because of that low center of gravity, so powerful.
How about you?
And fast.
How about you? How come? Do you think that some of these guys should be on tour at certain locations, could be riding twin fins to their advantage?
I think there's certain waves that you can. I think waves where you can hold more speed. I keep thinking that Bells would be a really good place for one if you had the right, combination of the rocker and the fins and all that stuff. Because there's such a flat section between the outside and the inside, and just that link, retaining that speed, and also Bells is such a flat face. Even on the best of days, it's still a pretty flat face where the bottom of the wave is about 2/3 down the wave, and then there's this slope that you can't really use way out in front of it. And so I keep thinking that a twin fin or a four fin of some sort, just because they're just simply faster down the line, less resistance through that middle part of the board and everything, with that middle fin.
Yeah.
So I think they are potentially viable. I think you have to have one that's narrow enough in the tail that looks like you're shredding, instead of like a wiggly back end. Like Shane's boards were all laser zap. They all look like that. They were like wide in the tail, like a teardrop kind of thing. And, they'd be 23 inches wide, and that wide point was 2 feet from the tail. And the tail
But he won Bells too. So
he did, yeah. But that was at RingCon, right?
Yeah. But some of the heats would have been might have been in the bowl. Do you think that like what's really wonderful about the resurgence of the twin fin is that it's come on with the modern rockers and all the modern. I mean, you got a bunch from Mike Wu over there. He seems to be pretty, and you got Aquila, who's a second generation shaper, longtime friend of ours. Must be exciting being on the forefront of that and seeing what you can do with the rockers and where you place the fins. And so much different than the twin fins of when people left the twin fins in the 80s. Derek Hind is doing this whole, do you know what Derek's doing? He's doing a whole, do you know what Derek's doing?
I have no idea what Derek's doing. No.
He's doing this whole thing,
and
it's really fascinating. He's doing this whole thing on surfboards that he remembers he had, like, magic surfboards. He's going back there and reshaping them with a sense that he left something there, and that because of back in the day, he would he'd have to return them, and that in his mind, the performance wasn't done on that surfboard. And
Yeah.
and you probably have like surfboards that over the years that would have, you're like, man, I want that element of that surfboard mixed with this element of this, like that board wasn't finished. I wasn't finished right. Now I'm better surfer than I was. Maybe I should go back there and see what I feel to learn. There's so much there. It's fascinating, actually.
Mm. Yeah, I do wish there were some of the old boards that I sold or got rid of. For me, I wish I could have my first surfboard I ever had back. I have no idea where it is or how to find it or if it exists. It might have gone in the trash eventually after being sunburned under someone's house for years. But that first board, but we didn't have the money for us to keep our first surfboard, so we had to sell that to get another one, and that went on for probably the first 4 years that I was riding hard boards. So a lot of my early boards were always sold back or given back, traded in. And but I was thinking about yesterday how I might just go plug in because I'm about to die. I was thinking about how when we were Groms, you'd get a board, and that board, you just had to make that board work, right? And so and we didn't have repeatable rockers, and we didn't have good blanks. The blanks went right for the size of boards I was riding and stuff. So you had to make the board work. So you had to figure out these different things about the design, like there might be a certain maneuver or place on the wave they would be really great at, and then something else maybe you'd avoid, and then you'd find that in the next board if it was different. And
do you think that in that you learned how to soften yourself, because you can't force? I had a board, a thruster, one of the first thrusters. It was made by Sunset Surfboards, and I was 16, and it was waterlogged, and I had a giant piece of duct tape on it. And I remember, and this is maybe in some of the poorer countries with surfing, like Brazil, for instance, Italo learning to surf on an Esky lid basically, and just some of the not being able to get these new boards, Jamaica, just lots of different places. But I was bummed on my board, and then the OP came to town, and there was Shane and MR, and I was in the water with all my heroes. All of a sudden, my board started working really good again. I just figured out, like, I have to make it work, and there's a certain amount of intelligence you gain from riding that inferior equipment, maybe for a little while in your progression.
Yeah, well, Derek Hine used to talk about that everyone should take like a 6.5 with them on tour, and in their practice surf ride the 6.5, and then go in their heat and speed up on the 5.10 or 6.0. You feel like you're going twice as fast. It just gives you that sense that, oh, I'm flying on this wave. And I think it's really good to ride other boards and learn what they do. There's some guys who are so heavy in one area of their surfing that it would be good for them to either ride a twin fin or ride a single fin, or just ride something different to offset their sort of imbalance in their approach. And sometimes I find that for myself, and I think, oh, I need to go and ride something that'll balance me out a little bit.
I noticed with my own technique that I used to, and probably still do, I lean over one direction and the other direction, and moving from a, I think you can get away with that when you're riding a 3-fin, but when you start riding twin fins or single fins, they can slide out on you if you don't stay right over the top of the board. And the person that I see that stays over his surfboard is Tommy Curran, and then, I think that's what both Italo and Gabriel do. Their posture, the way that their head's over the board, they're like really over the board almost all the time.
Yeah, they're really 50-50 on their weight, it seems like, compared to other generations. Obviously, Carroll was very forward, very much into this, into like he'd walk way up the board, and then when he turns, it's all stomp on the back foot. So it's like, that balance is going much further forward and then backwards, whereas those guys seem to be so upright, almost like sometimes they almost look like a snowboard stance or something,
Yeah. And it can, and then that's where you can start getting into the style part of it, and looking at where, you know, certain turns are super stylish, other turns are not so stylish. You know what I mean? There's a, to me, whenever I'd say whenever Inlo or Gabriel don't look stylish, I think they look boxy, and they don't soften. And I talk about this a lot in Wave Key about softening down so that you can go down close to the surfboard. If you think about like a bodyboarder can make the latest drop ever because they're so close to the surfboard. They have so much control. The center of their mass is so close to the bodyboard. So if you can get your body down close to the surfboard prior to the turn, or so that you don't fall, you know, there's just all this, you know, and then you got different anatomies. Gabriel's taller, you know, Nilo's shorter, you know. Pretty fascinating stuff, really.
Yeah. Well, I think at one point I was talking about before was we were mentioning about I was talking about Medina and his competition ability. You know, he's been in almost every final that's happened this year. It's crazy. This day and age, that's a pretty crazy stat. And Italo's threatening at everyone also. I feel like Felipe is kind of the sleeper. You know, he hasn't been the focus of this year. He didn't make the Olympic team. You know, he's not ranked quite as, I think he's in third or fourth, but he just seemed like he was a little slower getting out of the gates this year. And I think going into trestles, that probably suits him really well. But I think getting back to that point though, like Medina is so interesting to watch surf heats. And I think that's where he does his best surfing from what I see. When I saw him as like a 15-year-old,
we never see any videos of him surfing outside of heats. I suppose.
Well, that was kind of the point I'm going to get at, is that like John, everyone watches John's movies. You know, it's like John's exciting to watch in heats, and when the waves are great, obviously he does things that other people can't do, the way he barrel rides and the air combos he makes and stuff. But the you know, the full-time filming he has with Eric Knudsen, and they're constantly working on creating an art piece, you know, a moving art piece. And so if you're going to watch a surf film, you're you know, you're probably going to watch a John film at this point. And if you're going to watch somebody who's a master of surfing heats, it's definitely Gabriel. And it's just, you know, it's just a kind of a different skill. But in saying that, I think as far as technically skill for skill, they're both like right on par with each other.
Yeah. I would say that the what I really liked was watching John surf at Little Merriweather. I thought he surfed super good. I thought he learned how to surf little waves very good, and he made like a little error, and you know, in surfing, if you make a little error, a little timing error, it can just domino and you just can't catch. You can't seem to catch up. It was really a really small, like subtle thing that I can point out to you basically. But I need the wave in front of us to show. But I love the way he was moving his board. That stuff he's doing with Justin at the Dark Arts, or whatever he's doing with the flex and all his little wave surfing looked really alive at Merriweather.
Yeah, I think his small wave boards look much better in recent years, last couple of years. I think he's really put time into working on that. You know, it's just you just got to have that on tour. And being from Hawaii, it's not something that it's not like you want to go and practice at Miley Point or something, you know, like a flat wave. Yeah. Like Sonny grew up surfing Miley and Makaha, so Sonny was always really good in those kind of mushier waves. He was
another guy never leaned over, and when he did lean over, it was real obvious. That layback snap card thing of his is just, man, that thing is so awesome to watch. I rewatched that a lot. I love the way he does that turn. That thing is just, you know, that thing is just so, man, whenever I see it, I just on the inside go, ugh, yes, you know?
Yeah. Sonny's backhand cut back to off the top was like, I always thought that was one of the best moves in surfing, like through the 90s. he had that crazy, like he would just squat low and just put all that power and just release it back into the lip. So fun
And
to
the
watch.
backside snap, and his backside snap was really good too.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked to chat with you, buddy. I miss you. You know, jump.
I feel like we
Feel free
didn't
to
talk
call
a
me.
whole
I know
lot.
we text and we talk and stuff, and I'm stoked to
Yeah.
stay in touch with you. So
Yeah, me too. I feel like this conversation isn't too far off just our regular phone call.
yeah.
We'd still be
And I
talking
think it's
about this
fun for
stuff.
people. I think it's fun for people to listen in and us talk about the higher, more critical things in surfing and just our opinions. And I mean, one of the things I feel connected with you is you have such a good memory. I've got a really good memory, and especially for things that really stick out and influence us, you know. And so many surfers have been so influenced me a lot, and I've learned from you being one of the biggest ones. I watched you surf a lot, you know, studied and still learn, and yeah. So,
Oh, thanks, Brad.
yeah, buddy.
One last thing I was going to say, I really want to see Curran. I want to see a whole section of Curran riding a good twin fin.
Yeah. I remember when he rode a twin fin. He was riding a twin fin when I was 15, and I was at NSSA. He was 16 and a half. He's like a year and a half older than me, and I remember he was riding twin fins, and then he moved to a thruster before he went pro.
Real quick, what did you think about, I mean, I know the answer, but what did you think about Felipe's surfing at the wave pool? He was riding a little 4-fin swallowtail.
I didn't see it. I didn't
Oh,
get.
you didn't?
No, I think it was a time when we were moving where I try to catch every single thing, but then, you know, we were just moving from one state to another state. And let me tell you, moving all your stuff from a bigger house to a smaller house with 2 little kids, and I mean, it's just all encompassing. So I missed that. I can go back and look at it though, right?
I'm sure you can. Yeah. Let me know if you watch it. Gosh, he was just so. I think it was a real mental boost for him because, you know, Medina's won every contest in the wave pool, literally every single one that there's been until this one, and finally, Felipe is able to get the upper hand, and then it kind of you could see that Medina kind of felt that pressure. And then he wasn't surfing as free. He was in his head. I think there's a lot to be said for everything we do. You know, I was playing guitar earlier, and there's a certain strum pattern I'm doing this one song, and it kind of changes during the song. And a lot of times when I play it, I think about it so much. And then today I went, okay, just play it and don't think about it. Just like just focus on singing the song. And then my hand started doing exactly what it was supposed to do in the strum. And I thought, isn't that funny how like I focused so hard to try, and when you try, it just doesn't work. So it's like a philosophical thing where they'll let you try.
My dad told me, he said, in any artistic sport, that if you try even just a tiny bit too much, it just fucks the whole thing up. And so he's like, you just have to feel it. And I go, and he would tell me that all the time. I'm like, I get it. I believe you. But how? So how do you cross over into that feel thing? And I think that's learning to really be quiet and really tuning into yourself and becoming aware of that it's not here that where the intelligence is. It's not what you think. It's this bigger thing, feeling.
Yeah.
You know? And
it's just
I was
channeling.
just gonna say, when you come to Oz, let's have like a twin fin comp. You know, a modern twin fin comp. You know, like look.
You
like
call
this,
me out? You call me out?
Yeah. Why not? What do I got to lose? No one thinks I'm gonna beat you.
Classic. Yeah, that's the I keep thinking of things, but that's the thing I get when I watch John compete is I feel that artistic side, you know. I feel like it's not just a measured technical approach. It doesn't look like he's just trying to finish a wave or just get that score. It does, you know, and there are those moments where like he's got to stick a 5 and he just gets a 5, but like, you know what I mean? It's Italo and Gabriel, they take a lot of waves and a lot of chances and they do radical stuff, and that's kind of like how they get their game going. And whereas John, it's almost like he wants to paint this art piece during the heat or during this competition, you know, while he's in the water. And I love that there are those real distinct differences in people's personalities and their approach to things. And I think it was more evident probably in your era on the tour, especially when you were first on tour. There was so many different types of equipment, and you know, goofy footers were still second-class citizens, and but no, that I love those little differences you can see, and
well, some of the surfers are just all they care about is winning and winning at all costs, and the other ones are like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna surf the way I feel most comfortable is within my wheelhouse or whatever. But I think that I think that is wonderful that there are so many different types of so many different approaches, and there's still lots of room for surfing to grow and get better. And I mean, for me, I think switch dance is you know, like I think one of the things that isn't talked about that much, or maybe it is, and I'm not a part of the conversation, but just with the wave pools, it's like you can really, I think people don't want to surf switch dance because they don't want to blow away. You know? And when you know that the wave's going to be there, you're like, I mean, you know, I just surf switch dance for a whole, if I could just keep getting better, I could get better fast switch dance if I was in a wave pool again and again and again and again, you know? So.
Yeah. I wonder how good kids are going to be at airs in 5 years from now after all those wave pool sessions. It's pretty crazy. Like, and then I like what Kai's doing too. Kai Lenny, Kai's taking the straps to the pool, which is like kind of frowned upon by surfers, but it's allowing him a comfortability with landing different rotations. So then when he, you know, he goes back in the ocean on a big wave, you know, where he can just have that power handy available, that he can start pulling off airs he hasn't pulled before. Or with the straps, he'll start doing crazy stuff at jaws he hasn't done yet. But there's just such a, you know, guys like Eli Hanneman and obviously Jackson and a lot of the young air guys and Matt Miolas. And I think there's a lot of good, healthy stuff in surfing, in the variety of surfing and the big wave stuff with Billy Kemper and Ian Walsh and Kua and all those guys. And, you know, where Shane kind of like sort of passed the torch to those guys in the last couple of years. And
there's still parts of the wave that people don't ride. So that's where I like to see the progression go. I know it's going towards airs and all those types of things, but I'd like to see where people can ride on the wave and stay on the wave, like upside down and in the tube and in doing turns in those really critical places so they can go in and get out. And that's why I'm always, I'm working with acceleration and leverage, being able to get the body in those positions so that you can leverage, you can have the leverage so you don't get stuck in the, you know, you don't get stuck in there and get hurt, you know? That's exciting to me. So that, and possibly, you know, turns on waves that like Chopu or backdoor and, you know, and in places you just don't see turns. Like I think there's a great opportunity there to do some surfing that no one's ever seen before. Kind of similar, like you got those guys at Pipeline when they first started. They were taking off on the waves and riding them, and they're way out in front of them. You know what I mean? And then for them, if they could fast forward and see what you were doing at Pipeline, I'd be like, oh my god, you know, like wow, cool, you know.
Yeah, it's just getting pushed more and more. I still go out there every day, and I see guys that I don't. You know, I haven't really seen much out there. All of a sudden, just sending it from way behind where I think you can take off and just pulling in. I'm like, man, it's just gone to this. It's gone to the level it can go because I mean, guys are just going as deep as possible. And that I'm sure equipment has a lot to do with that too. I mean, you like quads because you can I mean, why do you like quads in those situations? I like them just because you get more lift off that fin base on one side. You get more speed, and I think they're a little more stable through like a foam ball in the barrel.
But you
just
try
the
to
more
slow
fin
down
holding
and
on.
you try to put yourself as deep as possible, and then you're the one who chooses, okay, now I got to hit the accelerator to get out of here, and you feel like the quad picks up speed faster
Yeah.
than, yeah, that's kind of
Yeah, I think quads and even twin fins I think are better in the barrel than thrusters.
Yeah, the twins you got the fin on the rail, so it pulls you up the face faster, and I think but wouldn't you say that a single fin or maybe even a bonzer, if the wave was just sitting there, it sits lower on the wave. It doesn't come up the face so much. It just sits down in that low spot, and it's a bigger fin, so it can actually go down deeper in the foam ball. I mean, I felt that when I had some really deep tube rides at Backdoor and Kira and the Mexico, a few places. I've had some really deep tube rides on a bonzer with that single fin going down low, and it wasn't the kind of maybe tube like Fiji where it was like, I had to race it. I think the quad feels like it would be the ideal board for, but
yeah. I I don't ride anything else like in Fiji other than the quad pretty much.
Yeah.
So I've kind of always wondered about like if you could make a single fin ride, if you get the flex and the depth of the fin and area and all that stuff right. And George Greeno many years ago, I didn't know him. I had never met him. Obviously knew who he was and followed him and saw the influence he's had in surfing, but I didn't know him. But he got my phone number, or I got a message to call him or whatever. So I called him and I was like, "Hey George, it's Kelly. How you doing?" He's like, "Hey, now listen, you got to take these pointed noses off these surfboards, and these are dangerous. And you're a world champ, and you got to show these people that you don't need a nose. A nose is pointless. It's just there to injure people." And he gave me about a 20-minute talking to, and I think I said about 3 sentences, and I was like, "All right, good to talk to you." But funny enough, I've been riding some round noses ever since then. I have a couple more like bullet noses, not so much the round noses because I think it cut the template off too early, but kind of the bullety noses, more pointed round noses. I think makes a lot of sense. You get a little bit of that weight going. You can keep your rail line and your rocker still.
Yeah. I talked to him about it as well. And in night one, I spent some time with him, surfing with him, riding his mat. He's pulling fins out under his bed, talking about the way that he laid the glass up, and that's how it would twist or bend or all these. And then every time I'd ask a question, he'd say, "Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So try it. Basically, try it." And I feel like I've tried a lot of different surfboards, a lot of different things. I'm open to continuing to try and feel things. It makes surfing exciting to try new things and stuff like that. So. But hey, Kelly, I gotta go.
Don't go yet.
I gotta use the
don't go yet.
I gotta pee.
I gotta show you something.
Okay.
You can't go yet. Talk to your people for a second here. Give me like 20 seconds. I gotta show you something. You're gonna trip out. One second.
So many comments coming through. I wish I could read and answer them all. Thanks so much. Super fun. You can ask me any questions on my DM or whatever if you have some. I'm happy to answer them.
So, Brad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that Donovan's?
This is Donovan's.
Yeah.
I've never ridden it. He gave it to me years ago, but it's got all that flex in it. Sorry, can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this compression flex zone all the way.
Careful. You know what? I've done that before, and you can break it really easy. It's supposed to just be gradual with the water. I have two of those. I got 2 of those. I got a 6.3 and a 6.9. Yeah, I have 2 of them. Yeah. They're still in Torquay.
So here's what I want to
fixed.
I wanted to take this fin and connect it to the deck right here, so that when the tail flexes, more fin gets revealed. So like if so it would kind of come out from the deck from your feet, so your feet really push it down and then extend the rocker, flex the rocker into it. But
You gotta try that board. It's pretty. Mine worked pretty good. I've got like I rode it at backyards on a sweepy swell, and then I also rode it out at rode it out off the wall. I got a full page shot in Surfer Magazine doing a top turn on it. It's a pink railed board, but yeah, there's so much cool stuff we can do with surfboards, and as you and I get older and older and older and older, we need the surfboard to do more and more.
Wait, isn't it like martial arts where you're supposed to like retain all this information so you can make a board do anything?
Yeah, and it is like martial arts. Like the old master barely has to lift a finger in order to thwart the young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
I miss you, man. This is really fun.
Yeah, man. Great to catch up, Brad. Thanks everybody for all those messages. I know there was a lot of questions about the Olympics. I think we handled that kind of early on, but maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do it on my channel here soon.
Oh man, there's so many. I just told people like, sorry, I couldn't get to all the comments, but that if they want to DM me, or, I'm happy to answer them and look at them. And then if something comes across and they want to ask you, and and it looks like something that would stimulate a fun conversation for us, I can put it to you via text or whatever, and we could maybe have another conversation. So fun talking about surfing because we love it so much, and we still love it. How lucky are we that we pick something so young that we still want to do and still are excited about.
So good. Olivia, I see you out there. Love you, miss you. Brad,
yeah, love you too.
Say hi to the kids. I gotta hang out with your kids sometime, get to know them.
They're gonna love you. They're gonna love you.
Cool, man. Look forward to it. But we'll talk before then, anyways. You guys gonna get to Hawaii this winter?
We live pretty close to your place here, so when you get here, it won't be easy. It won't be hard to get together.
Check it out. Harrow's online. He could have done his Aki impression for us. He's here watching us. Shane Heron.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Shane, you got the best Aki.
Yeah.
I got it.
Shane, put a.
I've been drinking water and coffee on one. I gotta use them.
I'm trying to make Brad pee in his pants here, guys. Yeah.
All right,
man. Hey Shane, put one of those Aki impressions on your.
Do it. Yeah, do it, please.
Yeah. Okay, Brad.
See you, buddy.
See you, bud.
Oh my God, I can pee so bad.